Have you ever stopped to think that maybe you're not whole here? It's strange, but think about it. How many times have you felt like your life seemed too small for what you carry inside? This tightness, this emptiness that insists on showing itself, could be the tip of a larger thread, a thread that connects you to something far beyond what your eyes can see. It's not crazy. It's just the feeling that there's more to reality than can fit into a routine of bills and commitments. What if those vivid dreams, that seem more real than waking up in the morning, were echoes of a version of yourself already living somewhere else? Or that déjà vu that sends chills down your spine as if you'd lived the same scene twice? Who hasn't stopped midway with the feeling that this has already happened? Maybe they're not illusions. Maybe they're traces of a consciousness that transcends the limits of this dimension. Now, imagine that every time you feel this strangeness, it's as if a door is being opened a crack, an invitation to look beyond the obvious, beyond the rush, beyond what seems normal. What if science and spirituality, such different worlds, were actually pointing to the same place? Before you dive into this journey, take advantage and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because here you'll always find impossible questions that change the way you see life. As you wake up early, rush through your coffee, and rush to work, life seems to revolve around the same axis: commitments, responsibilities, worries. But have you ever noticed how, amidst this repetitive routine, there's a silent voice telling you there must be something more? This unease, this feeling of incompleteness, is like an insistent whisper, a reminder that perhaps reality is greater than what your senses perceive. Traditional science tells us about 4 dimensions: height, width, depth, and time. But the world's greatest physicists have been claiming that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Modern theories, like M theory, suggest that the universe doesn't exist in 4 dimensions, but in as many as 11. If this is true, everything we know may be just a tiny fragment of something gigantic. Imagine looking at a Da Vinci painting, but seeing only a single line of the painting. And the most provocative thing is that you don't have to believe right away. It's not about blind faith, nor about dogma. It's about allowing yourself to feel the possibility. Just like someone who puts their feet in the sand and discovers that the ocean stretches far beyond the horizon, you can begin to experience life differently. And this brings us to an intriguing point. What if what limits us wasn't the lack of answers, but the way we perceive the world around us? Think for a moment. What if reality were much larger than our eyes can see? It's like the story of a character drawn on a sheet of paper, stuck to the lines, unable to perceive the air around him. He only knows 2 dimensions and believes that's all. Likewise, we live believing that height, width, depth, and time are enough to explain life. But are they really enough? Who hasn't felt like life is cramped? That, no matter how hard you try, there's always a part of you that doesn't fit into this routine. This discomfort is a precious sign. It's like being in a small room, but feeling a breeze coming through a hidden window, a reminder that there's something beyond. Maybe, when you feel this tightness in your chest, it's not just anxiety, it's your conscience trying to tell you there's more. And it is precisely at this point that science and spirituality begin to converge. While physicists seek to explain hidden dimensions with equations, mystics speak of veils that prevent us from seeing the whole of reality. Ultimately, both are saying the same thing. Our senses are limited. But if they weren't designed to capture everything, what are we missing? This question opens the way to something even more intriguing: the science of the 11th dimension itself. Scientists have discovered something fascinating. The universe is not made of solid particles, as most people imagine, but of vibrating strings, invisible and incredibly small. These strings don't just move in the 3 directions we know. They resonate in up to 10 spatial dimensions, plus time. It's as if reality were a symphony orchestra. But most of us hear only an out-of-tune flute, ignoring the entire melody playing behind it. A curious example, some physicists suggest that the Big Bang, that colossal explosion that gave rise to the universe, may have been the result of 2 brains, parallel universes, colliding. Imagine 2 sheets of paper floating in the wind that suddenly touch, releasing immeasurable energy. If this is true, the birth of everything we know would not have been an accident, but the result of a collision between hidden dimensions. And here's the most intriguing detail. Edward Witten, one of the architects of M-theory, didn't create it as a scientific fantasy, but as a mathematical necessity. The 11th dimension isn't a frill, but the stage where forces like gravity and quantum mechanics finally meet to speak the same language. And if the universe itself requires 11 dimensions to exist, how can we believe that our consciousness would be limited to just 4? Perhaps we, too, are projections of something much greater. Carl Jung used to say that what we call self is just the tip of a much larger iceberg. The ego, with its memories and routines, is just a small part of a larger self that transcends time and space. It's like seeing the shadow of a statue on the wall. It exists, it's real, but it's far from representing the full grandeur of the figure. What we experience day to day may be just that shadow. While the true structure of our being unfolds in invisible dimensions, imagine a dream so vivid that, upon waking, you swore you'd lived it. Many dismiss these experiences as daydreams. But what if they were clues that a part of you is awake on another plane? I knew someone who dreamed in detail about a city she'd never visited, and years later, upon arriving there, she recognized every corner. Coincidence? Or an echo of a version of herself that once walked those streets? This insight changes everything. Perhaps you are not an isolated being trying to find meaning, but a projection of something much larger that already exists, just like a movie screen, which shows only a snippet of the film. Your daily consciousness may be just a fragment of the whole story, and if that's the case, then déjà vu, intuitions and dreams are not mistakes. They are reminders. But these signs become even clearer when we talk about dreams and intuitions. Who hasn't woken from a dream feeling more real than life itself? Often, these dreams aren't mere inventions of the brain, but windows open to other layers of consciousness. It's as if you've poked your head out of a dark room and discovered a vast, illuminated garden. At these times, you don't just dream. You experience a version of yourself that lives beyond the confines of the physical body. The same thing happens with déjà vu. You enter a place for the first time, but feel a shiver that says, "I've been here before." It's as if 2 timelines intersect for an instant. Some believe it's just a memory glitch. But what if it were a leak from another dimension? A message that you're more connected than you realize. A good analogy is to think of the mind as a radio. Normally, you listen to only one station, routine, logic, the predictable. But sometimes, for a second, the signal wavers and another station appears, bringing a different melody. These moments of attunement are the déjà vu, the intuitions and dreams that seem like messages from elsewhere. But if these signals are real, what would their origin be? Since time immemorial, different spiritual traditions have suggested that the human being is not limited to the physical body. The Vedas describe the Atmanas, the reflection of infinity within each person, a spark that carries the whole in individual form. It is as if each of us were a drop that carries within itself the essence of the entire ocean. We are not separate. We are parts of the same vibrant whole. The ancient Gnostics said something similar, but with a powerful image. the soul as a fragmented light, divided into multiple dimensions. Just as a prism transforms a single beam of light into different colors, we too manifest in different frequencies of reality. What you call self may be just one of these colors, while others continue to exist silently in invisible planes. Theosophy reinforced this idea by asserting that our waking personality is merely the surface. Beneath it lie subtle bodies, such as the astral, the causal, and the divine. Each of these levels functions as layers of consciousness, tuned to different frequencies. When we understand this, we realize that lucid dreams, intuitions, or déjà vu can be intersections between these layers. But if this is true, is the mind merely a product of the brain? What if the brain weren't the creator of consciousness, but merely the antenna that receives it? Many researchers have already suggested this, comparing our mind to a radio that tunes into different frequencies. Just as you can't see a Wi-Fi signal, but it's present everywhere, perhaps consciousness is an invisible field that encompasses everything. The brain would function merely as the device that translates this field into thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. A common experience can illustrate this. How many times have you had memories so vivid they seemed not to be yours, or an intuition that couldn't be explained by logic, but later proved to be accurate? If the mind were merely a file stored inside the skull, where would these flashes come from? But if consciousness were a holographic field, accessible to all, each fragment would contain the whole. This vision transforms everything. You wouldn't be a body trying to produce consciousness, but a consciousness temporarily tuned into this body. Just like someone changing stations on the radio, perhaps it would be possible to capture other music, other states of being. This would explain why certain people in deep meditations or near-death experiences report accessing realities beyond our own. But what happens in these moments of limit? There are moments when consciousness seems to escape the confines of the body. Reports of near-death experiences describe people observing themselves from the outside, listening to conversations in distant rooms, and bringing back details impossible to invent. These are experiences that challenge the traditional explanation of the mind as something purely neurological. It's as if, for a moment, the antenna had picked up a station far beyond normal frequencies. In deep meditation practices, something similar happens. People report the dissolution of the self, as if personal identity were merely a thin layer over something much larger. The same can be experienced in ancient rituals with entheogens, visions of overlapping worlds, a sense of unity with all that exists, dialogues with wiser versions of themselves. In these experiences, time and space seem to dissolve. And perhaps you've felt something similar in simple situations, a profound silence, intense pain, or even during the loss of a loved one. Suddenly, the sensation arises that there's more of you present there, a something observing everything from the outside. These moments of limit seem to open gaps in ordinary reality, like cracks through which light seeps. But what does this light want to show us? Perhaps the greatest reminder of all, that you are not broken, just incomplete. Ultimately, the message is simple yet powerful. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are not too small for the universe. You are simply unfinished, like a book with chapters still to be written. The 11th dimension is not just a scientific concept. It is a symbol that your consciousness is much broader than what you call self. Your life is not a single story, but a chapter within a gigantic work. Imagine an infinite library, where each book represents a version of you in another time, another frequency, another reality. Here, you're only flipping through a few pages. That doesn't mean the rest doesn't exist. This reminder isn't meant to take away your peace, but to broaden your perspective. And it's precisely this vision that changes everything. You don't need to compare yourself, race against time, or prove anything to the world. What you're experiencing now is just a fragment of a greater being that already exists in its fullness. Every intuition, every déjà vu, every intense dream is like a letter sent from another version of yourself. The question is, are you willing to open these letters? So what will you do with this reminder? Will you continue to believe that you're just a body racing against the clock? Or will you allow yourself to feel that there's so much more going on beyond what meets the eye? Perhaps the greatest secret is this: the fulfillment you seek is already within you, just hidden by the layers of routine and the rush to be someone. The question remains, what will change if you start looking at life with this awareness? Imagine seeing your dreams not as illusions, but as messages, living each déjà vu not as a coincidence, but as a reminder. Each intuition as a gift from a version of you that has already moved on. Life takes on a new color when you realize you are not alone. You are multiple. You are vast. And if this message touched you in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and subscribe to the channel to continue this journey with us. Turn on notifications, because the next chapters will delve even deeper into these impossible questions that can completely change the way you see life. After all, this may have been just the beginning of your journey through the 11th dimension.